What's going on, world? It's your man Ron P, aka Barbecue Poppy I, and welcome to the first episode of Queuing with Pitmaster Ron P. So today we're gonna be doing a little jalapeno poppers, also known as Texas Twinkie. We're gonna do some handcrafted pork spare ribs, and to finish all that off, we're gonna make some banana pudding to hit that sweet tooth. So let's just jump right off into it. We're gonna get your jalapenos. There's a couple of ways that you can slice these jalapenos. The way we do it, we're gonna split this jalapeno in half. And you wanna get it to where, you see how it's rocking a little bit? You wanna get it to where you can get right in the middle, so when it sits down on the pan, they both sides can lay flat. So here's a little tip. When you're taking out the seeds, you wanna grab a spoon. Everybody thinks the seeds is what makes the jalapeno popper hot. That's not. You see that little vein right there? That little vein is what causes your pepper to be hot. So if you're like me, I only want a little heat. I don't want a lot of heat, just a little, just to let me know that I'm working with a jalapeno pepper. So let's get the seeds out. Now as you're taking the vein and the seeds out, be careful because some of this juice will shoot back at you, and you don't want that in your eye because now you won't be able to see. You'll be walking around looking like you're Popeye or somebody. So let's get those out. And as you're getting these out, what you want to do is take out your cream cheese. Let your cream cheese set and sit on the counter for a few minutes, so that way it's soft when you're getting ready to apply the cream cheese to your jalapeno popper. So what I have here is some leftover brisket. So if you're a barbecuer like me, you know you're gonna have some brisket going on. If you're from Texas, you know that's the big meat that we do. So instead of throwing this meat away, we're gonna use that, add it to the cream cheese, put it inside the jalapeno, and that's how you get your Texas Twinkie. So let's chop some of this brisket up. Nice and chopped up. Man, I wish there was something to call smell-o-vision, because if you can smell this brisket, ooh, wee, it smells good. Here we go. All right. So it doesn't have to be chopped up too fine. You wanna, again, you wanna let your guests know, hey, there's some brisket off inside this jalapeno popper. We're gonna get it off into the bowl. All right. The leftovers will just set to the side. And then now let's open up the cream cheese. So we've been letting this set for about 10-15 minutes. That way it's gonna be nice and pliable when you add your cream cheese to the brisket. So it'll mix real easy. Make your process nice and easy. Now add your cream cheese to your brisket. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so now we're just gonna mix all this up. And if you're like me, I like to add a little seasoning everywhere within my meals. Even though the brisket had some seasoning, you can always add a little more to your cream cheese. Get that all nice and blended up. Everybody's having fun together. Let's add a little bit, add a little coarse black pepper, just a pinch. Kosher salt, not sea salt, kosher salt. And the reason why we use kosher salt, because you can use less of it. The granules are a little bigger, and a little bit of granulated garlic. Beautiful. Just mix it all up, and now we're almost ready to add it to the jalapeno. So we're gonna set this off to the side, let it sit. We're gonna open up our bacon, and the kind of bacon that I use, I like to use your standard cut bacon, because if you use a thick cut bacon and you put it on your grill or in your oven, it's gonna take a long time to cook. Your pepper end up wilting before your bacon's cooked. So you wanna use standard cut bacon, not thick cut. Pull out a couple of slices of bacon, set it off here to the side. Beautiful, see that? Standard cut, not thick. Beautiful. Now, let's fill these jalapenos with your brisket cream cheese. Ooh wee. If you're like me, we're from Texas, we like everything big, so it's okay if it's piling over. Just like that. Just like that. Get one more in there. Okay, let's set our bowl back off to the side. Now, The way I like to wrap my jalapeno poppers, I start from the stem end and I wrap my way down. So we're gonna use 1 slice of bacon. We may have to use 2, just depending on the size of your jalapeno. So I like to use the side that has the meatiest side, not the side that's kind of frayed. We'll start with the meaty side. Place it under your jalapeno, and we're just gonna wrap around. Wrap all the way around, wrap down. Just like that. Beautiful. Let's do that one more time. Starting at the stem and working our way down. And then again, Pitmaster Ron P. I love seasoning, so we're gonna sprinkle a little bit more of that kosher salt. First, let's wash our hands a little bit. Use a little bit of the coarse black pepper, because everything's about presentation, right? We eat with our eyes first before we actually eat with our mouths. So when this comes out, it's gonna look beautiful because it now has a little bit of texture plus that flavor. It's gonna be good. So normally I put these poppers on the barbecue pit, but today we're in a kitchen, so we're gonna be able to pop them inside the oven. You put them in the oven for 350, anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, just depending on how you like your bacon crispy. Me, I like my bacon a little crispy, so we're gonna get closer to that 25-minute mark. All right, and we're gonna slide it in the oven at about 350. All right, so now we're done with the jalapeno poppers. Let's move on to our pork spare ribs. So I like to call them handcrafted pork spare ribs. And the reason being, we're gonna shape this piece of meat up to how we like it, so that way it presents well after we finish with the product. So let's get into it. First, before you use your knife, you always wanna sharpen it a little bit. Make sure everything's nice and sharp, because you don't wanna cut yourself with a dull knife. You don't wanna cut yourself at all, but especially not with a dull knife. Okay, here we go. Open up our pack. Look at that piece of meat. Beautiful. Let the blood drain. Let's get onto your cutting board. So here are the things I'm looking for when I look at this piece of meat. You'll start to see like little edges that are sticking off the side of the meat. We're gonna trim that up, cut that off, because it's real thin. He'll end up burning when you put it on the barbecue pit. So let's trim those up. But you see this meat? Most people throw this away. Not Ron P. We're gonna put that to the side. We're gonna season that up, because you're gonna have a lot of hungry people. When they start smelling all that good barbecue smell, or even in the oven smell, they're gonna want something to eat, something to sample. So just to keep your guests happy, let's rinse my hands off. Just to keep your guests happy, that's what we use that meat for. So then you'll notice you got this little flap back here on the back of the spare rib. We're gonna cut that off, because everything's about presentation. We eat with our eyes first before we eat with our mouths, remember? All right, let's set that to the side. Now, there's this membrane on the back of the pork spare rib. We gotta pull this membrane. The reason why we pull this membrane, because you want all that seasoning that you're gonna use to set off into the meat, so it gets nice and flavorful. You don't want that membrane to stop you from doing that. So what I use to pull the membrane off, I'm using a little paper towel, a little Texas secret. Hold on one second. All right, so we're gonna start from one edge and work our way to the other. It never really pulls in one pull, so you're gonna have to do it a couple of times, but let's see if we get lucky. And look at that, TV magic, pulled in one time. That never happens at all. All right, so we're gonna just clean all this up, get all the little membrane stuff off. Beautiful. Let's flip our ribs over. All right, and again, we're looking to shape this piece of meat up for when it goes inside of the pit or into your oven. So today, since we don't have our barbecue pit with us, we're in the kitchen. We're gonna put these in the oven. You wanna cook them in the oven at 350 for about 2 hours. So you see that nice little bark that it starts to form in the oven. Then you'll take them out, get some foil. We're gonna add some special stuff we'll talk about here in a second. wrap them back up so they'll get to their nice desired tenderness. So now that everything's nice and shaped up on this piece of meat, we're gonna get it seasoned up. I like to start with the back because the back is what's gonna sit on your barbecue pit or inside of the oven on a cooking sheet. So let's get this out of the way. Set that to the side. Rinse our hands. And what I use to season my ribs, I call it the Goshen Point Trinity. You say, what is the Goshen Point Trinity? I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. So we use coarse black pepper, just like we did on the jalapeno poppers. Coarse black pepper. And we use kosher salt, not sea salt, kosher salt. Because again, the granules are bigger than sea salt. That way you have to use less. We use our kosher salt. And then top it off with some granulated garlic. Now, if you have time, you're not in a crunch, what I like to do, I let this sit out for about 5 to 10 minutes so that way all the moisture is drawn out from the salt, and that way you know that those seasonings are getting off into the meat. But since we're doing the show today, we don't have that kind of time. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna speed up the process and we're gonna pat that seasoning down into the meat. And now you would take this piece of meat, get it on your rack or on the pit at 275. Let this thing smoke for about 3.5 to 4 hours before we get to the wrapping process. But again, since we're doing this in the oven, we're gonna pop it in the oven at 350 for 2 hours, and then we're gonna go from there. All right, guys, now that we have slapped those ribs in the oven on 350, we're gonna let them cook. So remember I told you about this little secret sauce that we use. This right here is magic. What is it? It's called brisket tallow. Now we'll talk more in depth about this on the next episode, but brisket tallow, we're gonna use this for the little meat that we talked about that came off the ribs. Put this in the skillet. Let's get the skillet rolling. Get it nice and hot. We're gonna add a little bit of the tallow in there. Brisket tallow. All right, now let's cut this meat into nice little bite-sized pieces. And again, you always want to use a sharp knife. Make your process easy. And trust me, saving these little pieces, your guests will thank you. Because now they're smelling all this food. They come to the house. They're like, hey man, I'm hungry. You invited me over. I'm ready to eat. So now they have something to chew on while we're waiting for the main dish to be finished. And then here, this little piece of meat that we took off the back of the pork rib with the membrane. Now we're gonna try our best to get as much of this we can off, and then we'll put it into the pile of meat with everything else. And this is why we use a sharp knife, because a dull knife wouldn't be able to remove this membrane like this. And so we're gonna do just like we did with everything else. We're gonna season it with the Goshen Point Trinity. Coarse black pepper. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Kosher salt. Granulated garlic. There you go. Let's mix that all in. But now our skillet is nice and hot. You see, if you can see from back there, you'll see the smoke starting to come off the skillet. That lets me know it's ready. All right, here we go. Y'all gonna get ready for that sizzle. That noise that we all love to hear. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm gonna cook for probably about 5 minutes. We're gonna keep it at a medium-high heat. You hear that nice sizzle? That's what we want. So let's stir some of this pork meat around. Oh yeah, that's what we want right there. All right, so now that we took the little pork bits off the cast iron and plated them, let's see how they taste. So what we're gonna dip these into is the Goshen Point Meat Enhancer. Sweet Heat Meat Enhancer. It's good. Your guests are gonna be happy. that you made these little pork bits for them. I'm gonna have to get one more piece, I'm sorry. That's good. You can also get some of the Sweet Heat Meat Enhancer at www.gpbbq.com, or if you follow us at Goshen Point Barbecue on Instagram or Facebook, that's GOSHEN Point POINT BBQ. Come on. So now, about time for those jalapeno poppers that we've been waiting for. We've been in there for about 20-25 minutes. Let's see what we got. So now the work is done. See, and you want to see that. That's when you know it's got that ooey, gooey goodness. You can have some of the brisket cream cheese coming out of it. Now these are hot. We're gonna let it set for just a few minutes, and then we're gonna taste test that. See if all of our work has come together. Let's go. Cheers. That's what we're talking about. Boy, you got to do this. So the way I like to cook them, you see how the bacon has a nice crust to them? So when you have that bite, you can taste that crust plus the cream cheese, and then you have that little back end of the brisket. That is money. Now that we have our appetizers out of the way, have our little pork bits, we're gonna roll into now the part that we all been waiting for, the dessert. If you're like me, I have a sweet tooth. We're gonna get into that right after this. Now we're gonna get into the part that we all been waiting for. Remember, we popped those ribs in the oven for about 2 hours to 2.5 hours. Now let's see what's happening inside. Let's get them all nice and sliced up. But before we slice them up, let's marvel at our work. Look at that beautiful crust on there. Is that not beautiful, or is that not beautiful? Now let's turn it over. And the reason why we turn it on the back side is because we want to be able to see the curvature of the ribs, so that way you can cut in between the bones nicely. Again, we sharpen our knives before we start cutting. Here we go. Oh yeah. Right there, you know, it had a little crunchy bits get stuck to the knife, but that's okay. That's what we want. Last piece. And then we're gonna flip it over to the presentation side. Look at there. Absolutely gorgeous. If you take a look around, so you'll see that nice little pink. Some people may think that pork rib is undone. No, that's the smoke ring that we're looking for coming off the barbecue pit. Right there. So now, like every good cook, what do you have to do? You got to do the taste test on this one too. Let's get in there. I know you see some of that. That's a little of that greasy goodness. And what you want to see on this rib, you see that bite mark when all the meat's not sloughing off? That's how you know this is a perfectly cooked rib. That is absolutely amazing. Now in Texas, we use some of our Sweet Heat Meat Enhancer, and the reason why we call it enhancer, because this meat stands alone by itself. Adding this to your ribs or any piece of meat that you cook, it's going to enhance it. So you know what? Let's enhance our life with some of the Sweet Heat Meat Enhancer. Let's see how we're going to enhance Pitmaster Ron P's life right now. Let's go. Here, come here, come close. Get your bite. Oh yeah, that's it right there. After you do this, your guests, even if they were mad at you, they can't be mad at you. That thing is amazing. So now after we're done with these, we're gonna switch over into the dessert. To hit that sweet tooth after you had the savory, now it's time for a little sweet. I'll see you here in just a second. All right, guys, so now we're at the point of the dessert. So we had all the savory, now it's time to get to the sweet. So today we're making the banana pudding. It's a quick banana pudding. It only takes maybe from start to finish 15 minutes, 20 minutes once it sets in the refrigerator. So I use the Jello brand, not the any kind of generic, Jello brand. That's the brand you gotta use to make it taste good. All right, so this one's about a 5-ounce box. So we'll get this out. You're gonna just get your little bowl. Put the mix in there. Have yourself a whisk. You got your bowl, you got your whisk. We're gonna use about 3 cups of milk to add to this. And if you don't like regular milk, you can use any kind of almond milk. So let's get our milk in there. 1 cup. And then 3 cups. On this pour we did 2 cups. Beautiful. Now we're gonna whisk this up. And you just want to whisk it until you start to see the little pudding consistency. And then we're gonna set it into the refrigerator. Let it set for about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll get that in the refrigerator. So now I'm gonna move into the spot that, because we're gonna get to our secret sauce with our banana pudding at Goshen Point. Cream cheese. This is the magic that's gonna go inside the pudding. It makes it nice, creamy, rich, and you're gonna add some sweetened condensed milk. It's not gonna make it too sweet, but just sweet enough that you know it's there. Sweetened condensed milk, and then Cool Whip. So we're gonna start with the bananas first. We're gonna cut up the bananas, and I'm gonna show you a little trick to keep your bananas from going brown inside of your banana pudding, because that's the biggest part why people don't like to put the banana in the banana pudding, because it turns brown. A little bowl like this. Let's get a knife to cut it up, and then we're just gonna chop up some nice little rounds, maybe about a 1/4 inch rounds that are gonna go inside of your pudding. All right, let's get those into this bowl. And so the secret, we're gonna add lemon juice to these bananas. The lemon juice will keep them from turning brown from the oxidation of the air getting to the bananas. It won't leave a lemony taste. It just helps coat the banana and keeps it from turning to that ugly brown color that you don't want to see inside of your pudding. You want everything to look nice and fresh. Let's get that into that bowl there. All right, so we're gonna add the lemon. So get you a nice, beautiful lemon. Just gonna cut that lemon in half. Just use about half of the lemon. We're gonna drizzle it over the top of the banana, just like that. Beautiful. Now, hey, cooking is love. You gotta get in there, love on your stuff. We're gonna toss it all around. That way, the lemon juice gets on every side of the banana. Beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this pudding into the refrigerator, and then we'll come right back. All right, so now we're that the pudding is starting to set. We're gonna add the magic, the cream cheese I told you about. So if you don't have a KitchenAid, you can also use a hand mixer, but today I have my KitchenAid with me. So let's get that. We're gonna use some sweetened condensed milk. I gotta give it a little quick shout out to my boss and my wife, Sherry Patterson. She's the one that taught me how to make this amazing banana pudding. Let's get our Cool Whip off inside there. We're gonna fold it off inside of the mixture. Alright, set that to the side. Now, we'll use the whisk attachment if you have a KitchenAid. And now we're just gonna let it blend for about 2 to 3 minutes. Let it get all nice and mixed up inside. And by that time, when this is finished mixing up, the pudding has been setting long enough to where we can bring the pudding back out. Then we're gonna add this mixture to the pudding to make that ooh goodness of that banana pudding. All right, so now we pulled out the pudding mixture, and now we're gonna add our cream cheese, Cool Whip, condensed milk to the pudding, and then we'll start plating it. Just get it all nice and mixed up. And so since today you're having guests come over to your house, let's get a little fancy. Instead of putting it inside of a bowl, what we're gonna do to serve to our guests, we're gonna put in these beautiful martini glasses. Just show them that we're a little fancy. So we're gonna do everything in layers. We're gonna start first. I'm gonna add some of the vanilla wafers. And since it's in a martini glass, we're gonna crumble it a little bit. Then we're gonna add some pudding. Look at that. And let's not forget about the beautiful bananas that we sliced up. Let's add a couple of those in each of them. This layer, let's go ahead and leave some of them whole, or we'll break them in half like that. That way you can feel the texture of the cookie. And now let's finish topping it off. And we're gonna finish off the top layer with just a nice vanilla wafer cookie topping to make it look nice and beautiful. Crumble them up again. Look at that. All right guys, so like I said before, after you finish everything, you got to get that bite. Let's make sure that this is as good as the rest of the meal has been. I'm done. It's amazing. Just like everything else. Very good. Alright guys, so now we have everything displayed. We started off with our jalapeno popper, also known as the Texas Twinkie, with the brisket cream cheese on the inside. We had the little pork bits that you don't want to throw away, just to keep your guests at bay, not biting your hands. And then we have the handcrafted pork spare ribs that were just delicious. And to top all that off, you have the Sweet Heat Meat Enhancer, and then the star of the show, the banana pudding. Come on guys, hey, if you like that, you like what we did here, if you want to follow us at Goshen Point Barbecue. That's GOSHEN POINT BBQ on Instagram, IG. And if you want to get some of these recipes, go to www.gpbbq to get the recipes for what you saw here today. We'll see you next time.